Welcome to our channel. It's me, Mika, and today I'm gonna tell you a story of Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Montgomery. Chapter 1. Mrs. Rachel Lynde is surprised. It was a fine day at Prince Edward Island. Mrs. Rachel Lynde, as usual, sat on her rocking chair knitting some socks. She sat at her kitchen window, looking at Avonlea. People always passed there, and she would always gossip and go to Green Gables to Marilla to find and tell her all the news, and sometimes asks her. While Mrs. Rachel Lynde was sitting on her rocking chair looking at her kitchen window, she saw Matthew Cuthbert in his finest suit, driving the buggy. Matthew Cuthbert? What is he doing here? He should be planting turnip seed, like Mr. Lynde. I wonder if he's buying some new turnip seed. I'll go to Marilla and find out. She went to Marilla, and she said, "Oh, Marilla, where's Matthew Cuthbert going, and why?" "Well, Matthew Cuthbert is going to fetch a boy from the orphan asylum in Nova Scotia, and he's going there because he's getting weaker and he can't handle all the farm chores." "Well, you're doing a very foolish thing, Marilla." Mrs. Lynde was a very outspoken person. That's why she always spoke what she thought. And she said that, "Well, he'll cause trouble in Avonlea." I read in the newspaper once that a family adopted a boy from an orphanage, and he set fire in their houses and nearly burned them in their beds. It was on purpose, Marilla, I swear. "Well, that won't happen. We'll train the boy, and he'll only work at the farm." "Well, I also read that a boy used to suck the eggs, and what a filthy habit he done, Marilla. Oh, that is really mean." "Well, I'm sure he won't suck the eggs. He will adopt a very nice and kind boy." "Well, don't come crying over to me if you don't do my advice." "Baby." "I know, Rachel, everything will be fine, and there will not be any mistake in what I'll do. I'll discipline the child very wisely, and I promise nothing of those things will happen." "Well, Marilla, I know you will not be right this time." While Matthew was driving his buggy, I forgot to tell you that he was the shyest person alive. He had to nod at all the women. Either you know them or not. "I promise I'll really take care of it, Nana. I promise. I'll promise. I'll really promise, Nana." Okay, and then Matthew Cuthbert reached the train station at Bright River, and she saw Anne sitting with an old carpet bag on a bench with some dirty clothes. And she said, "Oh my." And Anne said, "Huh?" But Matthew skipped along and went inside, and Anne had a sad face, waiting and waiting for Matthew Cuthbert. They arrived. Oh my. And finally, he asked the station master where was the boy and where was the train. They said the 5:30 train has passed already, and Mrs. Spencer had gave him a girl. Matthew had no choice but to bring her home. Anne said, "You must be Matthew Cuthbert of Green Gables. Oh, I'm so delighted to meet you." Matthew said, "I'm sorry for being late." "Oh, no, don't be sorry. I'm really fine, thank you." and I'm excited to go to Green Gables. Anne went to the buggy with Matthew, and she said, well, at the asylum, it's really dusty there, and there were scarce plants there. And I was really sad, and I pitied all the dried plants there because, well, they had no leaves at all. And I think they must be really, really sad. Well, I know all the trees' feelings, actually. Well, I'm sure enough. Matthew Cuthbert, I'm really excited. I hope there's a lot of plants at your place because, well, I never seen live plants, and I really will be really sad at Green Gables if you'll not have a plant for us. Well, there's plenty of plants, I suppose. Oh yes, I'm really, really happy there will be plants because, well, at the asylum, there was no plant at all. But I'm glad Green Gables has a lot of plants.
I forgot about
Some kids at the asylum were really, really rude to me, and they always bullied me because of my red hair and freckles. Well, I'm nearly perfectly happy. You know why? Why? Said Matthew. Because, what do you think color is this? Said Anne. She lifted one of her red plates and she said, it's red, ain't it? Said Matthew. Yes, it's red. Anne dropped the braid down with a sigh. I wish I had black hair, black as the raven's wing. Because red hair is like red with carrots. Well, it's perfectly fine. Do I talk so much? Everyone says I do, but I hope not to you because I love talking and I'm really, really talkative. Well, now I think it's fine. Matthew was actually enjoying himself because he thought women were really bad and little girls were the worst. But this little girl was really definitely fine. He said, oh, you can talk as much as you like. Anne continued and said, yes, I'm really, really happy. I'm super happy. And Anne saw something really, really romantic. And she saw the avenue. Oh, wow. Matthew, what do you call this place? It's the avenue. The avenue? Of course it's not gonna be named the avenue. Well, isn't it pretty? Pretty? Pretty doesn't seem the right word for it. It is nor beautiful either. It should be called wonderful. And I'll think of a name for it. The White Way of the Light. Yes, that's the perfect name for it. Matthew liked the conversation and drove along. Oh, wow. Mr. Cuthbert, what do you call this place then? Well, we call it Barry's Pond. Barry's Pond? I don't like that name either. I shall call it the Lake of Shining Waters. Yes, that's a perfect name for it. They nearly drove to Green Gables. Matthew said, Green Gables is right over there. Don't tell me. I know just where Green Gables is. It's right over there, isn't it? Yes, over there. How did you know? Well, I guessed it. Maybe Mrs. Spencer told you it. Of course not. She doesn't even know Green Gables. And I asked where it was, but she didn't tell me because I kept on asking. And she said I asked her a billion questions. And it's really unfair. And she said to me, children should be seen but not heard. That was said to me a lot of times, and I don't believe it. I believe that children should be seen and heard. Chapter 3. Marilla Cuthbert is surprised. After 1 kilometer, they reached Green Gables. Anne had a very smiling face on herself, and she said, yes, finally, Green Gables. I'm really sad when romantic things end, but I'm more happier when the most romantic thing has happened, and it's happening right now. Anne was really excited to meet Marilla when suddenly Marilla said, Matthew Cuthbert, where is the boy? Where is he now? Well, there wasn't any boy, Marilla. It was only her. Only her? Oh, Matthew, there could have been a boy. I sworn there could be. Anne turned her happy face upside down and she said, You don't want me because I'm not a boy. I shouldn't have known it before. Matthew, if you shouldn't have led me to the white way of the light and the lake of shining waters, it wouldn't have been so hard. What on earth does she mean? Said Marilla. Well, she's just referring to some conversation we had on the road. Well, there, child. There's no need to cry. There is need. You don't even like me. Well, what's your name? Anne suddenly started to cheer up. She said, Will you call me Cordelia? Call you Cordelia? Is that even your name? Well, it's not exactly, but please call me Cordelia. I'll be really upset if you won't. If Cordelia isn't your name, what is? Anne Shirley, she responded. Well, Anne Shirley is unromantic. Of course it's not. It's plain and sensible, said Marilla. Well, we'll get you some dinner. Anne said with a sigh. Oh, okay, Marilla. She washed her hands and she said, Marilla said, Oh, what happened to you, dear child? I was pinching myself a lot today to see if this was all true. Well, it is now, and please wash it. Anne washed her hands. They started to eat dinner. Anne didn't eat anything. She nibbled at the bread and butter and sipped the juice. I mean the milk.
Don't touch my bush, baby. And don't even ask for it. And don't even talk about it, okay? Because I want to forget about it. So that I will be more happier.
Okay. Anne said, I'm in the depths of despair. I couldn't ever eat anything. I once had a chocolate caramel. It was simply delicious. It was like I ate a lot of chocolate caramels in one day. And it cost a lump. And that's why I call it the depths of despair. And oh, I can't even eat this. Best put her to bed, said Matthew Cuthbert. Yeah, you're right, Matthew. She tucked Anne into bed and she said, I'll get a spare candle from my room. Anne hid herself under the blankets. When Marilla came back, stop singing! Marilla said good night. And Anne said, How can you call it a good night if it has been the worst night ever? Oh, mind your manners. Huh. And then Anne went back under the covers. Marilla went out and talked to Matthew, and she said, Oh, Matthew, how disgraceful she is. She's not even thanking anyone. Oh, she's really, really hard-headed. Well, what kind of use will she be to us? We might be some good to her. Matthew Cuthbert, I think that girl has bewitched you. Well, she did, Marilla, and well, she's a very interesting Marilla. You just didn't hear her speak. Well, I'm going to bed now, Matthew. Me too as well. But remember, Anne should stay. All right, we'll just decide to it. They both fell asleep. Chapter 4. Morning at Green Gables. It's my favorite part. When Anne awoke, she saw a nice silky blanket that she said, Oh, it's time for some nice imagination. She picked up the nice long white silk and pinned it on and tied a knot. And she said, Oh, I'm Lady Cordelia and Snow Queen. I accept your token offer. And suddenly she was distracted by Marilla opening the door. Ah, what on earth are you doing? Oh, I was just imagining I was Lady Cordelia, dressed in a white misty veil, decorated with flowers, and it has a long silky dress. Well, top of your imagination. It was time you got dressed. I'm sorry, Marilla. I was just getting excited. Well, don't be excited right now. I'm trying to have a good day. We'll be visiting Mrs. Spencer. and we'll try to return you. Anne said. Oh, and that reminded her of her bad day. All right, Marilla. She got dressed. And she finally went down to eat. After eating, she went on the buggy with Marilla and she said, "Goodbye, Green Gables. Goodbye, dear Snow Queen. Goodbye, Bonnie. Goodbye, Matthew Cuthbert. And especially, goodbye, everyone." She was sad and she made up her mind and she said to Marilla, "I hope I could enjoy this ride. I'll not think of anything except this drive." Finally reached Mrs. Spencer's house. She saw Lily Jones playing with Jane. And she said, "Oh, it's Lily Jones with nut brown hair." Miss Marilla talked to Mrs. Spencer and told Mrs. Spencer that she had made a mistake. Mrs. Spencer said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Marilla. Actually, Mrs. Blewett came by. And she would love to meet Anne. She's very good at housekeeping." Anne said, "Oh, not Mrs. Blewett," she thought. "She's the most unwretched woman I ever know." And then she said, "Oh," Mrs. Blewett came in and she said, "Anne Shirley, you must be very good. You look skinny, but you're wiry. Wiry are the best ones. You have to do as you're told. You wash the dishes, feed my children, and you don't forget to treat them when they're sick." And obeyed at every single word Mrs. Blewett said because she doesn't want to be hurt. Marilla said, "Well, Matthew and I didn't decide yet. We'll tell you, Mrs. Blewett, if we didn't agree," and felt more delighted, and they went back on the buggy. And said, "Oh, Marilla, you're the best." Oh, that's really nice. "Well, before you do it, can you tell me all about your life?" "Well, all right." Chapter 5. Anne's history. Anne said, "Oh, I was born in a place with a garden, and the roads were so sweet and smelling. And also, we lived in a nice..." "How dare you?" "What? How dare you make nonsense? Sorry, it was just an imagination. And how many times I told you to please stop imagining and tell the true story." "True words were never spoken," she said. "I was born in a yellow house with a garden and a rose bush in front, in the middle of the garden. I was born with red hairs and freckles, and I already know that because I see you right now. All right, my parents were Walter and Bertha Shirley. And they were both nice people, indeed. And I also loved them dearly. I cried and cried many times. I lived in a nice crib. My mother said I was beautiful, but Mrs. Hammond said I was weird and homely. When my mother died of fever, I was sad and I kept on crying as well. And my father died when I was just 3 months old. My parents also died when I was 3 months old, and I was 11 last March. And also, when Mrs. Hammond came, and I had a friend, Katie Maurice, and one was half and one was whole. It was half because Mr. Hammond smashed it when he got intoxicated. And also, oh Marilla, it was really bad. I had an imaginary friend named Katie Maurice. When I left her, she said goodbye. And I also had a friend, Violetta, as an echo. And she echoed me back when we had to say goodbye. And that's when I ended up to the asylum. And I stayed there for 4 months. And that's how I came here. Marilla pitied Anne. Well, you'll not be going us until we decide. Oh, please don't, Marilla. Please. I'd rather go back to the orphanage instead of being with Mrs. Blewett. She does like a wretched wretched old screwdriver. A wretched old screwdriver, said Marilla. And then she imagined in her mind Mrs. Blewett squeezing herself into pieces. And Marilla said, And she said, well, Anne, that could be true, but we'll decide this tonight.
Hello, I'm the
Chapter 6. Marilla makes up her mind.
Hello. But look.
Anne went to bed that night, and she said, oh, good night, Marilla. And I heard that you... And then Anne slept soothingly aloud. And then she said, and then Marilla said, I think we should keep her, Matthew. She could be obedient. Matthew said disgracefully, oh yes, Marilla, I thank you so much for doing it. I could ever have lived without you. And the next morning, Anne awoke and she said, oh, Marilla, I'll do anything. We'll do things now. And wash the dishes, mop the floor, and repeated and repeated. Marilla saw how responsible Anne was, and she said, now could you tell me, Marilla? Not yet. Did you wash the dishcloth with hot steaming water? Oh, not yet. Shh. Now can you tell me, Marilla? Of course. Me and Matthew decided that you could stay at Green Gables. Anne's eyes shimmered, and she cried of joy. And Marilla said, what's on earth happened to you, child? Are you okay? Oh, I'm just so happy. I just can't rejoice. And rushed outside and told Snow Queen, her friends, Bonnie, and everyone. Marilla said, she is very emotional indeed. She continued running, and she found Matthew Cuthbert. And she told Matthew the whole incident, that she could stay. Even Matthew knew the incident already. She let Anne talk, and he was very, very happy for her. Yes, I'm really happy, Matthew. Oh, can I pluck one of the Snow Queen's branches? Of course, said Matthew. She plucked it, and she smelled its sweet fragrance. She arrived to Marilla, and she said, oh, Marilla, I'm so happy. And did I tell you to leave? Oh, I'm sorry, but I was really happy. I had to tell all my friends in the garden. Well, I told you to be back at 2 o'clock, and you said you'll be back in a jiffy. Sorry, Marilla. I just had so much fun. I couldn't ever stop. Well, it's all right. Oh, Marilla, I'm so sorry. But also first, could you let me attend the Sunday school picnic? Of course, why not? You're a Sunday school member, remember? I'm so happy. There will be ice cream, yummy ice cream. I love ice cream so much. Wait, but Diana said we should all bring a basket. Oh, well, that's good. I'll give you a basket. Yes, Anne. And I will be wearing my special brooch at that occasion. Oh, yay! I'm really, really happy for you, Marilla. And do your needlepoint. Needlepoint, oh, it's so boring. There's no scope for that. And, all right, Marilla. She did needlepoint and talked all about the picnic and about Marilla wearing her favorite brooch. And Anne finally asked the last question. Marilla,
The house.
okay, Marilla, do you think that brooch is really sparkly? What color it is? It's amethyst, said Anne. Amethyst? Oh, I love amethyst. I think it's gonna be perfect on you, sweet and sound. Anne went to bed, and she remembered to put the cloth when she attended Sunday school. She attempted to put the cloth with the brooch on its proper place. After Sunday school, when Marilla was coming, Marilla said, Anne, what? Where did you put my brooch? No, I didn't take your brooch, I swear. Marilla, I never took your brooch, and that's the most honest truth I can say. Well, it's not there. Confess now, Anne. Confess right now. Oh, Marilla, I swear.
Anne and Diana.
Oh, yeah. But before I tell you that, I will tell you how Anne and Diana met. Where's that chapter here? Anne and Diana met each other and they solemnly swore that they would be best friends forever. And Anne said, I solemnly swear to be faithful to my best friend Diana Barry as long as the sun and moon shall endure. Diana repeated the oath again and put Anne's name in it. They played and showed each other their rooms, but it was time to go. And they asked each other for more time from their parents, and they said, oh please, Marilla, oh please, Mother, let us stay for a bit longer. And then they said, all right. We will agree, but only for a few times. Anne was delightfully happy and she smiled and she said to Diana, oh yes, I'm perfectly happy to be with you, Diana. They continued showing each other rooms together, and they never stopped. They laughed and played each other, and they said, yes, Marilla, so kind. Diana, you know what? I love Green Gables. I was just adopted by Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert, and they let me stay at Green Gables. Oh, aren't you happy for me, Diana? Of course. And will you be my best friend, Diana? Of course I will. I already like you. Yes. It's perfectly happy. And see you next time, everyone. But don't worry, because I'll see you in the next episode.